Yeah, I'm ready whenever everyone else is.
Recording.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming today. I am Deb Burton, Executive Director of RI Elder Info. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization that helps connect people with the information and resources that they need to remain independent. And we have all been made aware of the recent cyber attack that may or may not impact the individuals that we serve. And I found that for myself to go in and place credit fraud alert and credit freeze, it was not as easy as I expected. So I was having a conversation with Doug Alexander, director, and Russ Boschman. Not sure I said your last name right,
Yep.
Russ, the manager over at Rhode Island College's brand new Institute for Cybersecurity and Emerging Technologies. And we thought it was really important to get this information out to everybody as quickly as possible. So I appreciate you guys taking the time to join us here today with literally last minute notice. And please, when this is done, we're going to share this recording out as well as the PowerPoints and slides. Get this out to your networks as far and wide because we know that there's over 300,000 people that have been impacted by the cyber hack. And none of that counts any hacks that might be occurring because it's the holiday season and we're shopping online more. So please help us get the word out to as many people as possible. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Doug and Russ from Rick.
Thanks, Deb. I'll be really quick. I just wanted to say thank you all for coming on such short notice. Happy holidays. We here at the Cyber Institute have been tracking this hack very closely and gathering as much information and helping to support the community and the state as they go through this. And our role is really community education and community outreach, among other things in our charter. So if I wanted to say to all of you, if there are any other resources or webinars or information that you would like, we are more than happy to assist Deb and anyone else with compiling those and vetting them for, technical accuracy or any other information about cyber attacks, this one or in general. But thank you all for coming, and I hope this is really helpful and actionable for you and for the folks that you help. Now I'll turn it over to Russ.
Hi, everyone. All right, let's share the screen and move the talking head window over. There we go. Can we see the PowerPoint? Yep. Okay, great. So
Yes.
thanks everyone for coming. And so welcome to how to secure your credit reports in the wake of a data breach. Like this. There we go. So according to Security Magazine, there are over 2,200 cyber attacks every day. And that was staggering even when I learned that statistics, 2,200 a day. Okay, that breaks down to a single attack every 39 seconds. All right. And the number one motivation for these attacks is money or monetary gain, which that's why we're having this conversation today. There are other modes and mechanisms and reasons for attack, but money is number one. So what can we do? And what this presentation is going to be about is what we can do to secure ourselves to make sure that we are prepared for this, because it's not a matter of if it'll happen. It's just a matter of when it will. All right. So we can do things, and we're going to present things today, such as strong passwords, enabling strong passwords, configuring multi-factor or MFA authentication, and of course, putting freezes or fraud alerts on all three of your credit reports, in addition to some other things that you can do. So let's dive in. Well, you've probably heard this already. Strong password or passphrases are very important. Okay, long gone are the days of four-digit pins, or they're still around, but they should be gone. Four-digit pins and four characters passwords and things like that. So, what does it actually mean when we say we recommend that you have strong passwords? Okay, and so those strong passwords have a couple of categories in them, and you may again be familiar with this. The overall breakdown is 12 to 16 characters minimum, and I know that's a lot. But as you start to unpack this, or we start to unpack this today, you'll see that there are clever ways that you can try to minimize the pain that you might feel when you're creating these things. All right, so 12 to 16 characters minimum. Next up, we want to make sure that they are considered complex. All right, and what does it mean to have a complex password? Well, it means to include a number of things, such as upper and lowercase letters. You can see examples here. Numbers, you can see here. We all know what that is. And special characters. All right, we have exclamation point, at sign, pound sign, or hashtag if you're familiar with that. And I will say on the topic of special characters, some websites and some applications don't allow you to use specific special characters like ampersand or others because they are used in different types of programming languages. So they would cause disruption in the way the application functions. So the safe ones usually are the exclamation, the at sign, the pound sign, and so on and so forth. So adding some elements of those would be good to create a strong password, and in some cases required. And avoid using same passwords across multiple accounts. Now, I understand we are, products of data, and data is products of us. So we have many, many accounts. In fact, I use a password management tool, and the last time I counted, I have over 1,200 accounts in that password manager. So that's a lot of websites, and that's just the one that I've been using since I've been a Mac user. So long time. So 1,200 different accounts that I would log into, some regularly, some not so regularly. So it doesn't make it's not it's not easy for us to remember 1,200 different accounts or usernames or passwords. So we use tools like password managers and things like that. But the gist is, as it was explained to me by a cyber professional, try to keep categories of passwords. So passwords for financial websites like your bank, checking account, things like that. Passwords for generic websites, which are different from passwords for your financial institutions, and then passwords for like home or education or things like that, things that are not financial but might be personal to you, and you need to better protect yourself. So, what does it look like? A complex password is this is an example right here. Now, nobody's going to remember that. I mean, I certainly can't. And I'm really good with memorizing license plates for some reasons. But this particular password is an example of a strong password because the chances are that a hacker is going to guess that is slim to none. All right. And they can't run different types of attacks that would use common words in the dictionary, called dictionary attacks, to guess that either, because that password is not in the dictionary. But to make it a little bit easier, passphrases are also acceptable, so long as they include some of the strong or complex principles that we've talked about. So an example of a good passphrase right here is this one. The number 3, the word elephants, exclamation, the word dance with a capital D, the at symbol, and then dawn with a capital D. Now that might be easier for us to remember. Maybe not so much the special characters, but it's better than this thing right here. So, are the chances that a hacker is going to be able to dictionary attack that? Probably not. Those 3 words, elephants, dance, and dawn, sure, are all in the dictionary, but not as single words. So, and you've also got the special characters and the number in there, as well as the capital letters to even further complicate the likelihood that a hacker is going to guess that passphrase. So it's a lot easier, in my opinion, to remember something like that than it is the strong password that is listed above. And although you can use, I did talk a little bit about password managers such as 1Password or even Keychain that I use on my Mac. But maybe we should offer a workshop in that alone, Doug, as well, because that's a helpful tool. But it's beyond the scope of this particular training for now,
I
unless a
agree with you.
question.
What I was going to add is that iOS hasn't included. Apple has released a password manager that's native to the iPhone, which is
Mm-hmm.
very handy. And also that passphrases are actually the longer the better, and they're more recommended than complex passwords if the passwords are short. So what Russ is saying about
Hmm.
length matters more than complexity. I use a
Hmm.
password manager and keep my passwords 20 to 25 characters at least, depending on what the site allows. So it's
Hmm.
really much more about length than it is about complexity.
Yep. That's good. Good suggestion, Doug. So that's just a little bit about strong passwords and passphrases. The next topic that we wanted to talk a little about is MFA or multi-factor authentication. And I'm pretty sure most of you have heard this before. Maybe even most of you know what it is. But basically, MFA is another way to secure your accounts from prying eyes, from hackers. And what it is it's an additional step of verification to verify you as the user, the appropriate user, when you're logging into an account. So if any of you have seen something along the lines of, like you see here in the screenshot, let's verify it's you. How would you like to get your verification code? You can see text message, voicemail, or authenticator app. These are three common ways that MFA is utilized. The more common way at the moment is through text message or through email, where when you click on send code, you'll get an email or a text message, depending on what you chose, with it's usually a 6 to 9 digit code, 6 to 8 digit code that you'll have to enter in just to prove, as another step to prove you are who you say you are, and you're not somebody who's trying to infiltrate an account that does not belong to you. The Authenticator app is used usually in corporate, although I have seen it come out more frequently now with commercials, such as I was installing a video game on my nephew's Nintendo Switch that he got for his birthday, and I needed to use the Authenticator app of Google. So Google Authenticator, that's this one right here. And you have to open up the app to get the code, and then you put the code in the Nintendo uh, uh, device, and it lets you purchase or download the app. So those authenticator apps, they're a little bit, they can be a little tricky to set up, but it's not terrible, depending on the one you're setting up. And in most cases, you're probably just using the text message or email MFA option, as you can see in the screenshot here. So I just wanted to remind you that MFA is a good thing to set up. And I do want to remind you too, in cybersecurity, it's never a one and done model. Okay. We want to take a layered approach to defense. Okay. They call it defense in depth strategy. And what that means is you're implementing all of these solutions, not just one of them. Okay, so like I tell my students, if you wanted to secure your house because you're going away on a vacation, you wouldn't just lock the windows, right? You would lock the door, set an alarm, configure security cameras if you're that level, close the garage doors, things like that, right? You want to make sure that all of your points of entry are secure and or monitored or alarmed, and that's really what this is all about that we're talking about here today is this sort of defense in depth strategy. Okay, now let's get to the meat and potatoes of this presentation, credit report companies. And forgive me if you already know all this. I just wanted to start, you know, from the beginning in the assumption that somebody doesn't. So there are three major credit bureaus: Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. Okay, and these companies report or are responsible for reporting credit scores, open accounts that you may have with credit companies like credit cards, mortgages, student loans, in my case, and car loans and things like that. So anytime you go to apply for an account where you need a line of credit, one, two, or all three of these credit bureaus are contacted, and they approve or deny or come back with an alternative offer to the creditor, the person that's granting you credit. Okay. Now, we're going to go through each of these in a little bit. And obviously the reason for this is to how to handle those credit reporting issues, such as if you do suspect fraud or things like that. But I do want to say these all three companies do prefer you contact them through their website. They do have phone numbers, but when you try to call them, it can be a revolving door. So one it's usually an automated service where the person or the AI entity is referring you or asking you a question. What do you need? I'll get you to this place, which is not a person usually, and so on and so forth. And some are better than others. I think Experian, Doug, you had mentioned, they have a live person you can get to. Yeah, and but it's going to be a challenge to get there. So we wanted to take you through the process of locking, or how to lock, or sorry, I should say freeze, thaw, and put a credit fraud alert on your credit reports using the electronic means, if possible. Okay. I will also add that credit bureaus, much like the federal government, will never ever call you, ever. So if you receive a phone call from somebody reporting to be or claiming to be from Experian, Equifax, or TransUnion, hang up immediately. Don't even engage them in conversation. I know it sounds rude and dismissive, but the person, or now artificial intelligence that's on the other end, is trying to steal from you. And so consider that. So I'd tell my parents, who are in their 80s, I tell them, make sure that when you have these people call you, yes, it's human to engage in conversation, but they're not calling for the reason that they're saying they're calling. So just hang up.
And that I will add, that really goes for all phone calls from major
Mm.
technology companies or financial companies. Maybe your bank will call you or your credit card if there's a problem, but like Microsoft or Apple won't call. And there are a lot of scams out there purporting to be those companies that suck people into giving away information or access to their computers, and it doesn't go well. So just
Yeah.
a general principle is big companies don't care about you enough to call you directly and say there's a problem with your account or your computer.
Yep, great point, Doug. And also, one of the things that we learned from a recent event at the Attorney General, or at the Crown Plaza, given by the Attorney General Office, was that there's a new scam in Rhode Island, or newer scam in Rhode Island, for Easy Pass, which is the little thing, the device that you can stick in your car to cross the bridges, the Newport and Jamestown Bridge, without getting a bill because they don't have tellers anymore. And the Easy Pass company is they're not doing it, but the hackers are, and they're sending out bills, and people are paying them because they think that their car was used. Just happened to a friend of mine the other day. So be careful. Do what Doug said. Be very careful. These people aren't going to call you, and if you don't think you were crossing the Newport Bridge, is ridiculous. But if you didn't cross the Newport Bridge, you probably didn't. So just don't pay. All right. Okay. So now we're talking. Sorry, my finger turns off my microphone. So now we're going to get into freeze versus fraud alert, and when you would, or why you would want to select one over the other. Okay, so each of the three credit bureaus offers a credit freeze, or a fraud alert. Um, you can do both, but we don't recommend that you do both. Just pick one or the other. And we can't tell you what you might need. That's for you to decide based on your situation or circumstance. But we will unpack what each of them does for you. So what's a freeze? Well, a credit freeze allows you to lock your credit report so that no new accounts can be opened in your name. For example, a new credit card or a car loan. Okay, it stops creditors from actually accessing your credit report. All right, so if a bad actor, a hacker, walks into BMW in Skip and tries to apply for a loan for a new BMW in my name, and it's not me, okay, and I have a freeze on my report, they won't even be able to pull my credit report, and the hacker won't get serviced, thankfully. Okay, so that's a more a higher level. Well, not really higher. Well, it is kind of higher level. It's a little bit higher level or more strict policy that you can set on your credit report, so that it doesn't get hijacked. So that's what a freeze is. All right. Now, the other alternative you have is a fraud alert. Okay. And what a fraud alert is when a creditor, like, BMW, when somebody walks in to BMW, claims to be you, and they open up the credit report, they can pull a copy of your credit report, but on the credit report, it says, hey, this person has the fraud alert in place. Please do your best, whatever that is, to make sure they are who they say they are. But they still can get a copy of your credit report. Okay, it does not stop them from accessing your account. So then at that point, it's on the creditor's behalf to make sure the person applying for that loan or credit card is you and not somebody in your stead or in your place. All right. So, it's if you want a more strict solution, you can do a freeze. If you want a less strict solution, something that you're more convenient because you open a lot of accounts, then a fraud alert might be your best option. And I didn't tell you this yet. I should have. When you set a freeze on your accounts, you have to do it for each of the three separately. But you can thaw them, which we'll show you in a minute. But you can thaw them either specifically at a specific time, or you can schedule a thaw. So most of us, when we're going out to buy a car, we're not doing it, last minute thinking, hey, oh, I want to go buy a car today, right? So we'll schedule some time after we, research pricing and interest rates and things like that, and maybe the models of car that we want. And then we would say, okay, we'll plan to go to the dealership to take a look at a car. And so you can schedule a thaw, okay, and so that it's convenient and easy for you at the same time. So you don't have to do it while you're sitting in the dealership because a lot of the credit monitoring, I'm sorry, a lot of the creditors, the credit companies, Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, while they do have mobile solutions, sometimes they don't work very well. So you might want to be at a computer when you're doing this. But I mean, you can try on a mobile device too, if that you're comfortable with that. So you can see here, as we mentioned, you really can pick. You should really just pick one, a freeze or a fraud alert. You don't need both. Um, but they don't stop you from setting up both. So it's up to you which one you want, right? And let me show you some screenshots of what a freeze looks like. So in this particular case, this is an example of an Experian freeze. You can see that the security freeze is active. See how it says frozen? Okay. And you can see the picture of the snowflake here, cold, which is snowing outside, so it's cold or snowed outside. And if you want to unfreeze it or thaw it, you can just click the unfrozen button and you're thawed. And it sounds easier. I'm making this simple because getting to this point, you have to set up an account, which is free. And we're going to go through that in a few minutes. But once you get your account set up, it's pretty easy and straightforward to thaw or freeze your report. And I also want to call your attention here to the schedule a thaw button. This will allow you to schedule a thaw. If you're going to go on Saturday to look at cars, you might want to schedule a thaw for your credit to thaw or unfreeze on Saturday at 9 a.m. and then refreeze at 12 p.m., something like that. Okay.
Yeah, and if I may, Russ, I just want to point out that
Yeah.
I always schedule a thaw. I never just unfreeze because unfreezing is permanent unless you remember to go back and freeze it again.
Hmm.
And if you don't, then you're at risk again, and you're unfrozen. So very often this has happened to me. I've been freezing my credit for years, and when you apply for a loan or something, I'll often forget, and they'll be like, "Oh, we can't check your credit." I'll be like, "Oh," and I'll go in and I'll just schedule it for like a day or two, just to give the
Hmm.
bank or whomever enough time to pull the credit report, and then it refreezes automatically without me having to remember. So I always recommend scheduling one with an end date rather than in the Experian interface clicking on frozen and then just leaving it that way.
Hmm. Great point, Doug. I also do the scheduling of thaw too if I use the freeze option. So this is what it looks like in Experian. This is what it looks like in Equifax. Okay. So in Equifax, you can see that snowflake still here, different credit report bureau, but similar icon. And it says it's frozen and manage a freeze, right? And that's where I would click on to go in and thaw or schedule a thaw. Okay. And then this is what it looks like in TransUnion. Okay. You can remove freeze permanently or temporarily lift freeze. Now, I'll just mention that in the state of Rhode Island and Massachusetts, when you freeze a credit report, it's frozen until you thought personally. Okay, you have to manually go in and remove the freeze from your credit report. In other states, it's state by state, but in other states, these freezes expire up to 7 years. So while I'm assuming most of us are from Rhode Island and Massachusetts, so we don't have to really worry about that. But if you're talking to another friend or distributing this to a friend who lives in a different state, you have to have them check their state to see what the frequency is with which credit freezes are unfrozen by the state. So some states are 7 years, some states, might be different. You just need to know. But in Rhode Island and Mass, you're good. You have to manually go in and remove that freeze. Okay, so
Some
yeah,
people ask why credit unions don't freeze reports automatically for everybody, and the answer is this because this is how they make money by people checking your credit report. So, as in many cases, economics is behind this. They will not do it across the board, even though there's been suggestions about legislation for that because it would significantly impact their profits, and they make a lot of money sharing your credit information,
for
unfortunately.
sure. Yeah, that's a great point. And it's sad that we live in that world, but that's why we have these things. And really good point, Doug. All right. Before we dive into showing you what most of what we can without putting too much PI personal information in, are there any questions so far? Oh, good. Denise asks, if you pay for a monthly fee for fraud protection, would you need this if you freeze your account? So that's a great question, Denise. And we're going to talk a little bit about the paid services. There are a few, LifeLock, IdentifRaud, things like that, that do that for you. But those services that you're paying for should freeze your credit. It depends on the service because they offer different options. But if you're paying for a freeze, if you're paying for a service and they advertise a freeze and you've frozen it, then you're good. You don't need to reinvent the wheel here. But it might be good for you because what I'm going to show you now is how to get your account from each of the credit bureaus. In other words, get a login and a username and a password so you can log in and monitor. That way you can log in and see if your credit monitoring service that you're paying for is actually doing what it says it does. It's good to check them as well. So that's a great question. All right, so I'm going to drag my browsing window into the frame here. Can you see the Firefox purple window? You can? Okay. Thank you, Deb. All right, so what I'm going to do is I happen to know what the links are, but I'm just going to type in google.com. Okay, and we're going to stay signed out. And I'm going to type in Equifax and then freeze. Okay, Equifax freeze. And while I can show you how to navigate to them from the actual websites, the Equifax websites, it's easier if I just show you this way, at least in one of the cases, because the software, the application that they're using isn't working well with this particular browser. So you can just Google Equifax freeze or TransUnion freeze or Experian freeze. And we're going to go through each one. So I'm going to click on, see the security freeze right here? Click on that.
That is not showing on the, I don't know why it's not showing on the computer.
It's not showing on your screen?
I can see Equifax.
Okay, great. All right. So see where so it goes right here. See, place a security freeze. You see that? Now, I already have an account, so I'm not going to be able to get too far in here, but if you don't have an account with Equifax or Experian or TransUnion, you'll have to go through the process of setting that up, and I'm going to show you how to do that now. So you're going to click on Place a Security Freeze, and now it's going to ask you. You have to verify who you are. Okay, so I'm going to slide this off the screen so it's not recorded in personal history. And I'm just going to enter in that information. I'll slide it right back in a sec, but I don't think it's going to get very far because I already have an account here. Okay.
And the general principle that Russ is going to show in all of the cases with all of the bureaus is that you have to do a sort of minimum verification of who you are online when you're creating these accounts. So it might differ a little bit, but it's generally like the last four of your social security number,
Hmm.
your cell phone number, and in some cases, those two pieces of data alone are enough for them to check the credit report they have for you and verify that that is you, and then they display your info as far as the rest of it, your address, your phone number, things like that. In some cases, they may ask you more verification questions like, where do you hold a mortgage or a car loan or credit? What is your credit balance on this card or something like that that you might have to dig a little bit for. And in some cases, they might not be able to verify your identity at all. And this is where this process can get a little bit sticky is, and I don't want to get too far ahead of you, Russ, but that's where this process can get somewhat annoying is that you might have to try and contact a human, which, as we've mentioned, they make a bit difficult to do. Or worst case, you may have to, maybe this isn't worst case for some people, but you may have to make paper copies of utility bills or ID documents or both and send them to the credit bureau to verify that you are who you say you are. Um, so this is by far the hardest part of creating a credit union account is just getting past the identity verification.
Hmm.
With any luck for you or the folks that you help, it might be easy, but we just want to make you aware that this is a sort of a critical juncture where things can go really well or they can start causing you a lot more headaches. And remember, you have to do this 3 times. Although I did just read that if you place a fraud alert with one
Yep.
bureau, it'll actually propagate to the other two. Did you say that already?
No, I
Um,
didn't.
didn't know
I was
that.
going to say that, but you're absolutely correct. They
Yeah,
by our law are mandated to one credit bureau has to report the fraud alert to all to the other two. That's a
right.
great point, Doug.
But not so with the freeze. A freeze you have to apply
Not a
manually,
freeze. Yep. Yep.
naturally.
Just a fraud alert. Yep. That's correct. So, I can't show you the questions that you're asked because they're personal to me. So one of the questions was, you may have opened an account for a car loan in the past 5 years, and then it gives you a series of four banks, um, and then another option that says none of the above kind of thing. And so it says, what is the bank that you opened the car loan with in the last 5 years? And then you got to check, the one of the options that's correct, or they might throw a fake question at you, a question with no response because you've never opened one with a car loan in 5 years. Then you would choose none of the above kind of thing. Um, so I can't show you that because those are unique to me. And but I will slide the screen over now once you get in. Just making sure that, yeah. So let me get rid of this. We should be good now. Okay, so here, okay, you can see that I'm on my credit report page, and you can see that I can click on Manage a Freeze, or I can place a fraud alert. Okay. And Equifax, and we'll talk a little bit about free credit reports later. You can get up to 6 free Equifax credit reports per year. Usually, it used to be only one, but I'm guessing that certain things that had happened over the last 5 years, they're a little bit more vigilant about giving free credit reports. If you wish to get more than what they allow you, depending on the agency, federal law prohibits them from charging you more than $14.50. So if you need a seventh credit report, like you check it every month, you're going to pay somewhere around $14 for that credit report to be mailed to you or downloaded.
And I was looking for advice on how to review a credit report and what to look for, and I couldn't find any. So that might be another good webinar for us or someone to offer is when you get a credit report, now what? What are you looking for? What are warning signs? How are you reviewing that?
Mhm.
Deb at RI Elder Info, just raise your hand. Deb.
Just wanted to point out to everybody on the URL up at the top, if you can highlight the fact that that is HTTPS, and that S is what is indicating it's a secured site.
Mm.
Mhm.
So any website that you're going to that is asking for passwords, anything like that, you want to make sure that it says HTTPS to ensure that you're not going onto a fraudulent site. We have a lot of scammers out there who are sending
Mhm.
links. Oh, your US postage, Amazon,
Mhm.
etc. package is not arriving. Click this link. Yeah, don't click. I just wanted to bring out the HTTPS factor.
Yep, that's a great point. That means, like Deb said, it's secure. I never click on links in emails. Like if I don't want to say, let's say certain XYZ bank emails me, which they do from time to time, legitimately. I never click on the link that's in that email. I always go manually type it in to the web page so that I don't fall victim to what's called a phishing campaign or a phishing type of attack, right? So that's why one of the reasons why I wanted to show you how you can Google Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian Freeze, and you go right to it. So that's a great point. Um, okay, we're going to get to this in a little bit, but see the dispute center down here. And Doug had just kind of brought up what happens when you look at your credit report and you say, "Hey, I didn't open this account." What do you do? And you go to the dispute center for each of the credit reports, or here hit start or check a dispute, and then you can start disputing um, the specific item that's on your report that doesn't belong to you. This happened to my parents maybe about 7, 8 years ago, where their identity was stolen, and a common scam that was happening was these hackers were filing people's IRS tax returns for them, and then redirecting the checks for the refunds to them, and that actually happened to them, and they somehow opened an account with the down payment from the IRS refund that they got in my parents' name and for credit card or whatever, or maybe it was a car. And so my parents, it took them several years to dispute that and get that off their record and to get their IRS check back to them. So there's a couple of questions here. Let me just see. I have a lot of loan, so they would need to sign up with their cards for them sites to have protection. Nope. Okay. Sorry. Maybe I wasn't clear. These credit freezes and fraud alerts are completely free. They don't need to put it. You don't put a credit card in at all. Okay. There are sites and services that you can pay for, which we'll get to at the end, but you don't have to do that. These are completely free um, sites and completely free things that you can do.
Yeah, the key word is freeze. There are other products out there that these bureaus will flog endlessly about credit lock or credit
Mhm.
alert that are paid
Mhm.
services. Those
Mhm.
those are they may add extra services above and beyond a freeze, but they are not necessary to freeze credit. If you just look for credit freeze, that should always be free.
Yep.
When you navigate to these Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, the biggest fonts that you're going to see on the screen will be related to purchasing a product. Scroll down and you will see that you can place the freeze or the fraud alert for free. You don't need to
Mhm.
pay.
Good point. I'm using private browsing, so those ads aren't going to come up, which I would love to demonstrate. Deb, actually, you know what? I can demonstrate. Here, let me do it like this. So I'll just open new tab. I don't want new private. I just want new window. Yeah, there we go. All right. This is a regular non-private window, and I don't want to get into too much about that, but if I type in TransUnion freeze, oh, it's not coming up here either. Usually you would see sponsored links at the top, the big ones, but we don't see that here. Maybe I must be using an identity. Um,
Even once you go onto those particular sites,
yeah,
so if you pull up TransUnion,
Hmm.
right from that non-private right from that non-private browser.
Hmm. Oh, yeah. So this one here, and then see where it says credit free. So yeah, if we do that,
So
so
you
this, of
see
course,
how it
yep,
starts off with, oh, we want to sell you something.
yep,
You don't have to do that.
mm-mm,
It's free.
yep, it's free. Exactly.
Yep.
And of course, this is the website that I'm having issues with. So if I click on like services, you can see free annual credit report, freeze credit report, fraud alert, dispute. Okay. So actually, it seems to be working right now, which is good. So let me just click on, well, say I want to do a freeze, and then I can click on add freeze or unfreeze, and mine's already frozen, but I'm a member, so like I'm a free member, so I would go here, put in my information, and I would log in, and I'll do that off screen here, and then slide it back over to show you, so it doesn't get
And credit
recorded.
credit monitoring is another keyword of a paid service.
Hmm.
Which, and not to say that someone might not want to do this, but if you don't have the means, or if you're just looking to protect yourself without spending more money, credit freeze is all you need, or fraud alert. And fraud alert is, as Russ explained, a step short of a freeze, right? Fraud alert
Hmm.
is puts the onus on the creditor, the person seeking to loan you money, to
Hmm.
reach out to you, whereas a credit freeze means you have to take action in order to allow them access your credit. So that's the key difference, is that sort of power differential in these two services.
And here's what TransUnion's freeze or remove freeze or temporary lift freeze looks like. And I would just click on remove freeze, and I can remove it, or as Doug suggested, and I also support temporary lift it instead, so that it automatically refreezes when you don't, without you having to remember. And then finally, the other one. So let me do Experian. Okay, sign in. Sign in. Yes, 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 sign in. Okay. And let me go to security freeze and make sure no personal information is here. Yeah, okay. So this is Experience security freeze. Um, this is interesting here. This came up this morning. A major data breach exposed 2.9 billion private records. Set up a fraud alert to protect your credit report. So they're putting that up there. So that's a lot of people's data. Um, quarter, maybe a third and a half of the population. So, but you can do that here as well. Set up either freeze, unfreeze, thaw, or you can do credit a fraud alert. Forgive me. And that's what it looks like in Experian. Okay, slide that off. Okay, so and as Doug pointed out earlier, the thawing or freezing or setting up a fraud alert is not the most difficult part. Most difficult part is getting access to Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax services because of all the information that you have to verify. Um, some cases it could be 10, 15 questions. And there the phone number that they say you can call is usually just a revolving door, as I mentioned. Although Experian, I guess, has a good maybe a potentially good phone service where you can speak to a human if you run into a problem. Um, so, but the rest are seemingly roundabout. And if you fail to identify yourself the first time, you're probably going to have to go through the mail route, the snail mail route, where you have to send in documentation, which takes up to 15 days. So, you know, it would be nice if they could put an emergency freeze on your credit while you verify yourself, but I don't know that any of them do that, even in the wake of an event. So here we're hoping to be proactive in that none of you have already had an event. Um, okay. So Another thing is the free credit report. There is only one website that the federal government authorizes to give away free credit reports, and that is annualcreditreport.com here. They have a phone number that you can call that's also supportive of visually impaired folks. And if you're hearing impaired, you can call 711, which is the TDD, use the TDD, and you can have the person forward you to the annual credit report for people with hard of hearing um, or deaf or deaf. Um, and you can get one every 12 months. You can get one free copy of all three services every 12 months, credit reports, meaning, and I recommend doing it on a day that's close to a day that's meaningful for you, such as a birthday, anniversary, holiday, etc., because that way you won't forget. Yes, Dolly, I'll be happy to send the PowerPoint presentation right after that. We talked a little bit about the paid credit reporting or monitoring services. Here's an example of three of them: Aura, Identity Guard, and LifeLock. They, on average, they can start around roughly $10 a month. But you don't need to pay for those services if you can't afford to. I don't pay for them. Are they helpful? They can be. I would suggest you talk to your financial advisor about whether or not you would need that. So let me see here. Um, so conclusions. All right. What should you do? All right. And in the event of a breach, or what I would suggest right now, like today, let's be proactive, and let's just assume that our data is out there. You should get a free copy of all three of your credit reports by going to the annualcreditreport.com website. You don't have to go to all three of them. They do it. You just go to that one website and it will give you all three right there. You have to answer those security questions like we talked about earlier. But once you do that, you're good to get in, to log in for now and in the future. You should set up a freeze or a fraud alert, depending on what your needs are, at all three of the credit reporting agencies, Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax. You should make sure that all your passwords or passphrases are strong in nature. And we talked a little bit about on an earlier slide how to do that. And you should set up multi-factor authentication, or MFA, for all of your accounts if that account supports MFA. What to do if you suspect identity or credit fraud? You can contact the fraud department of any one of the three major credit bureaus that were listed in the previous slide. And you can, which hopefully you'll have a fraud alert already on your file, but if not, you can set one up. Okay. The alert will last for 90 days. Make sure that you contact all three credit bureaus and let them know you dispute that account that's been opened in your name or on your behalf that you know nothing about. And you can have them investigated. You can file a police report and submit a copy to your creditors or anyone who may require proof of that particular financial or fraudulent crime. You can file a complaint with the FTC at this phone number. Make sure you keep records of all phone calls, reports filed, correspondences, etc., and follow up phone conversations with certified letters to confirm your communication. And check your bank and credit card statements regularly and report any unauthorized charges, no matter how small, to your bank or financial institutions. So that's what you can do if you suspect fraud or identity theft. Here are a couple of websites for you for online help: fightcybercrime.org and Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. All those there. And question. Oh, sorry, Doug. Go.
I was just going to say it's important to note that even before this RI Bridges breach happened, most folks, at the very least, social security number and name, if not more information, has already been out there and released. There have been so many hacks, and I'm sure we've all gotten the letters from various providers saying, "Oh, we had a privacy breach." But there was a massive one that exposed basically every American's social security number some time back. So this doesn't just apply to the 350 plus thousand Rhode Island residents who may have been affected by this breach. It really applies to everybody. And we recommend this for everybody. And the reason we're doing this webinar is we recognize that that's a big lift, right? And a lot of this is a big lift, from the passwords to the MFA to pulling reports to freezing your credit, um, is a lot. And it is unfortunate that this is the reality we are in right now. In the future, we may be advocating for different state or federal legislation that helps with privacy and protection on this, but the US is a bit behind on that relative to the European Union and some other countries. And so, unfortunately, this is why Russ and I have a job, essentially. But it's also and super critical that we enable all of you to get this information out to the folks
Mhm.
that you serve, or to your family members, or to yourselves.
Mhm.
I also put in the chat, sometimes the perpetrators of fraud are people that we know. So if you suspect that an older adult is the victim of a cybercrime or elder financial abuse or really any other kind of abuse, I put that information in the chat. You need to report it. Obviously, if it's a imminent emergency, you would call 911. If you feel like it maybe is something someone needs to look into, you have a concern, a suspicion, you're required to report that to the Office of Healthy Aging. Their phone number is 401-462-0555. If you feel that someone may be being abused financially or any other way in a long-term care facility or group home, you want to report that to the Department of Health's Facilities Regulation at 222-5200, as well as the Rhode Island Attorney General's Abuse, Neglect, and Medicaid Fraud Unit in 222-2566. Or you can also call them at 274-4400, extension 2269.
Mhm.
If you feel like someone is able to make those reports themselves, but they might need some advocacy around next steps, you can reach out to the Long-Term Care Ombudsman's office at the 785-3340, and they can help you as well. It's really important for everybody to understand we're working with folks across the socioeconomic statuses, and if someone needs help, they may or may not have access to a computer system, so it may be by phone. And when we are making these phone calls, sometimes they are a little bit onerous at best. So we want to make sure that we're doing this with patience. And the cyber crime reporting, if someone has been a victim of cyber crime, the romance scams, etc., they actually do offer support groups. Uh, it is it is a federal program, and it is actually run by someone who lives here in Rhode Island, for the feds. So there's a lot of different options to get people the information that they need. There's multiple ways to protect our own as well as helping our clients protect their own identities and their own financial transactions. But like I said in the beginning, we are all in this together. So we got to row the boat in the same direction. I'm
Mhm.
glad everybody came. Please make sure you drop your contact in the chat, um, so that we can get that information, the slide deck out to you as soon as it's available. It's also going to be distributed widely. We hope that you'll share it with your friends. And if there's any questions, please don't reach out. Tell us. Raise your hands. Speak.
I think a follow-up we should maybe do is talk about the various nefarious ways that criminals could use this information by contacting victims directly. It's increasingly common that they uh, are extraordinarily cruel and devious about gaining victims' trust and then taking their money, especially seniors. I don't have to tell you, Deb, but I'm telling the rest of you. And I think we should do a deeper dive into that in the future because they're getting really, really devious, and the AI is also assisting with that. And it just makes it all the more dangerous for vulnerable populations out there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Anybody questions?
Just want to add a thought, since we're on the topic. Recently, I had a senior come to me and he was trying to buy a car through Marketplace. And I've noticed that that's a big scam there. And they're telling them, send us $300 and we will ship your car, by Monday. And, we're here in Rhode Island and they're from California. And yeah, even Monday, but it's Sunday, it's Saturday, it's Friday, whatever it is. It's unrealistic things that they're being told. And, it's being shared through the marketplace as well.
Yep,
So,
Dolly, I stopped using the Facebook Marketplace for exactly that reason because I got scammed out of $200. I got scammed for a piece of technology that I was buying for school as a donation, and I get sent the $200 in, and it seemed reputable, and they just took my money, and that was it.
Also, a lot of text messages coming through right now, particularly that say, oh, USPS cannot deliver your package. Please click here to
Yeah.
confirm your address,
Hmm.
particularly at this time of year. So those are scams. Uh, you want to double check URLs when they say click this link. Generally speaking, don't click. Your bank is not going to call you.
Hmm.
You want, if somebody calls and says that they are from your bank, hang up, call the number that is on your account statement. Many times, scam artists, they're testing the system. So they might hit your bank account for $1, $2,
Yep.
because they're seeing if you're looking.
Hmm.
So it's really important to let folks know, check your credit cards, check your bank statements on a regular basis. If you have credit cards in your wallet that you don't use anymore, consider closing them
Hmm.
as just general good financial hygiene.
Hmm.
Um, but we're all in this together. As we get more information, we'll be sharing it out. For some of you, you may know on the second Wednesday of the month, 9:30 to 10:30, we hold our community collaborations for seniors networking group. It's free. It's open to everybody. It's also on Zoom where we bring in trainers to talk about different things that folks want to learn. So we are all in this together. I appreciate everybody hopping in at the last minute of the holiday week, but this cyber hack is going to impact many of us, myself included. And
Hmm.
it's important that we are all working together. So I appreciate everybody joining us today.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for putting this together.
Yep. Thank you.